I'm John Batchelor. This is the John Batchelor Show. The battle for Tikrit. Tikrit, the hometown of Saddam Hussein and his kindred of Cain, but over these last weeks, since the offensive beginning March of 2015, it has been the site, a test case of the Iraqi army reborn, plus augmented, dominated by the Shia militia. And Michael Pregent of the National Defense University joins me. Michael is a veteran of embeds and working with, in Iraq, the Kurds once upon a time, but he has experiences with the Iraqi army and the Iraqi people, especially in Anbar province. He's written about this for the Wall Street Journal and Foreign Affairs, and so I asked him tonight, and he joins me in studio, to comment on what we know right now about the boast from the Iraqi government yesterday, 24 hours past, that Tikrit has been liberated. Michael, a very good evening to you. Thank you for this. Tikrit is a town that is under siege by the Shia militia and the Iraqi army, augmented by the U.S. air power. Did U.S. air power, in your opinion, turn the battle in favor of the attackers?
Yes, and thanks for having me. The battle was stalled about a week ago. We received reports that the Iranians couldn't do it by themselves without U.S. air power. What the Iranians started doing through their Quds Force and General Soleimani is they started bringing in heavy artillery and rockets for what was going to be a leveling of Tikrit. In my calculation, there was a strategic decision made that we would rather use U.S. aircraft than allow the Iranians to use heavy artillery to level this place. So anytime you use air support in support of a capable ground force, you're going to have successes, but we need to be very concerned about what the successes actually are and what are the ramifications of what's happening to Tikrit right now.
Good briefing, right to it. Thank you very much. I want to slow it down just a moment here and talk about the Shia militia. I've been told by my colleagues, Mr. Rajo and Mr. Jocelyn of Long War Journal, that the Shia militia include men and groups that are on the global terrorist list for the State Department, and men and groups associated with killing American soldiers in your time in Iraq. Is that accurate to your knowledge, Michael?
It is accurate, and what an advantageous position to be in if you're one of these militia members that were put on our targeting list, leading groups like Kataib Hezbollah and Asab al-Haq. These are militia leaders that 6 years ago were killing Americans, killing Iraqis, killing Christians, killing Shia and Sunni, and now are actually in charge of a ground offensive against the Sunni heartland in Tikrit. And what that means to the Sunnis that we need to fight ISIS, it's perplexing. They don't think we know what we're doing because we're actually supporting Shia militias that go in and ethnically cleanse areas, labeling any military-age male Sunni or, ISIS collaborator.
What happens to the Sunni lords, the Sunni gunmen, who are detained by the Shia militia?
A call goes out before the offensive, the ground offensive and the close air strikes. All civilians that are not affiliated with ISIS, please leave. In a lot of cases, ISIS doesn't allow them to leave, especially military-age males. There have been reports that Iraqi security forces have come across platoons of ISIS that are not platoons. They're simply military-age males, and when I say that, that's age 12 to 65. And this particular platoon was under the age of 14, and they were simply paid to stay there and fight. And the reports are that they had to give up a relative that would be killed if they retreated and fell back to other locations.
And when they fall into the hands of the Shia militia, are they detained? Are they taken to another place? Are they questioned? What happens to them?
In mixed areas, you're more likely to survive because you can be vouched for by a Shia tribal member who knows your family. In pure Sunni areas, when these Shia militias come in and they come across military-age males, they are labeled collaborator. What's very concerning is the language used by militia leaders like Hadi al-Amri, in charge of the Bada Corps, who oversees all of the volunteers. Qais Khazali, Abu Mehdi al-Muhandis, the leader of Kataib Hezbollah, is that the collaborators' fate will be far worse than ISIS's because they allowed them to come in.
American airstrikes. The American airstrikes have to be coordinated with someone on the ground. I've learned this. And you have spotters, you have ground-to-air communication. It's a very sophisticated operation. What does it look like? Does the Iraqi army give the orders? How do the Shia militia interact with our Air Force?
Well, we've got to remember who the Iraqi army is. In 2006, it had a good balance of Sunni and Shia and Kurds. This Iraqi army is 95% Shia. The Iraqi army units being used in Fallujah, or the Iraqi security forces being used, are federal police that are predominantly Badr Corps commanders, meaning militia commanders, and filled with the ranks of Jaish al-Mahdi, basically Shia volunteers from Sadr City. So Shia militias will grab an Iraqi army commander and say, hey, listen, we need the Americans to bomb that building there. The Iraqi army commander will call a Joint Operations Center Iraqi officer who would then tell the American, we have ISIS in this building, and the order is coming from an Iraqi officer on the ground when it's actually coming from a Quds Force proxy to target a building that's being manned by whether it be civilians or ISIS.
Translation: the Quds Force has the United States Air Force and the United States Navy as its air power.
We heard, the spin out of D.C. 3 days ago was that this is going to embarrass Soleimani of Quds Force. General Soleimani, we were embarrassed that we had to come in and help him. I look at it as General Soleimani is the Iraqi ground forces commander in Tikrit. And when he sees American jets in the sky, he looks up there and says, see those? Those are mine.
The report yesterday, it's propaganda, but we wait, everything's a fog of war, is that the Iraqi forces, Shia militia, have taken the center of Tikrit. You've told me, Michael, over several weeks that taking the center of Tikrit is the first phase and the easiest phase, that what comes next is martyr attacks and dug-in elements. Does the Shia militia, does the Iraqi army have the capability, the discipline, the fire discipline to take and hold a city as large as Tikrit?
This is symbolic of our toppling of the Saddam statue in the center of Baghdad. Everybody can remember the media being there when Saddam's statue was toppled and we had liberated Baghdad from Ba'athists. We stayed for 7 more years fighting an insurgency in the periphery. Tikrit is symbolic of that. This is a center of town where you can have the victory parade, you can do the looting, you can tout a victory, but the periphery is still active. There are still holdouts. There's a very advanced IED obstacle inlay overwatched by pockets of resistance with sniper capability. The good thing is that right now Tikrit is not able to be reinforced based on cutting off supply routes. The bad thing is once this ISIS thing is defeated, which is a great thing, defeat ISIS, but when you hold this city that is key to Saddam with Shia militias, you are going to alienate the very Sunnis we need to fight ISIS in other parts of Iraq. So
what we're seeing in Tikrit is that ISIS, a small military force to begin with, has now exited the region, and that the Sunni sub-state actors have been enraged by the abuse of the Shia militia, and that abuse will continue, and that the Shia militia is no more equipped than, say, the American Army was to deal with the IEDs and the guerrilla activities.
There are limits of advance for a capable military to be able to do things, or a capable militia. These militias are able to clear territory but unwilling to hold it. But what's being propagated in the Sunni communities, Sunni tribal leaders in those areas are warning that, listen, the more this looks like an Iranian-led Shia proxy force incurring on Sunni areas, the more you're going to push Sunnis into armed resistance. That doesn't mean alliance with ISIS. It just means they'll be fighting the same forces ISIS is fighting. The problem is we will give ISIS credit for swelling when it's actually a default position.
You're a professional. You see this battle. What did Iran learn from this fight?
Iran learned that if it moved its key leaders out of the visibility of cameras in a staging area 2 to 3 miles away, that would be enough for the Americans to come in and do their bidding. But within 24 hours, they were actually back on the ground, and we're still doing airstrikes. So make no difference, or make no...
They learned how to manage our air power.
Yeah, they've known how to do it for a while. They did this when we were there as well, but not with our air power, but with our special operations forces as well, by providing intelligence through Iraqi army channels to action targets that they wanted us to action. And
from the Sunni point of view, it's the Americans again. We're back. Except for this time, we're working for...
They were begging for us to come back. When they heard that General Allen was going to be in charge of the ISIS defeat plan, Allahu Akbar could be heard throughout Iraq, and it wasn't ISIS, it was the very Sunnis asking for us to come back. Now they don't know what we're doing. They don't understand why Americans they knew 6 years ago aren't the same ones coming back, and they have no idea while we're allying with the same Shia militias that Iran trained to kill Americans.
Michael Pregent, National Defense University. I'm John Batchelor.